Tonight on the stream, we will be going through part number 4, the added in template video. And then as always, questions about tonight's topic. This one actually shouldn't be too long. I might be able to keep this one to like half an hour, and then I'll see how it goes. I'll either do the questions tonight in the stream, or we'll do what we've done for the past few weeks and collate all the questions. You can all ask your questions, of course, and then I'll just do a stream dedicated to answering all the questions tomorrow. So I'll see how it goes. If it's fine, I'll do it tonight, and if it's struggling a bit, I'll just do it tomorrow in its own video. And then if I do it tomorrow, we can take a look at Bitcoin and put a 2-in-1 stream, I suppose. So we'll see how my throat goes by the end of tonight. But yeah, this one shouldn't be too long, so I should be able to do it all in one, I suppose. Let's begin though. So first of all, the template. So this is obviously the TPO and volume profile and candlestick template that I've made for you. And this is basically, I refer to it as an all-in-one template. So it's known as the TPO chart template. You've seen, we've been using this for quite a while now. You'll have seen legendary traders such as Eagle using this. I'm using it every day. So you'd have seen this one a lot, but obviously it hasn't been shared. Obviously people have tried to remake it and stuff, but hasn't officially been shared yet. And tonight I'll be explaining the ins and outs of it and what all those little numbers mean. So obviously it includes though the TPO profile, the volume profile, and the candlesticks all in one. So it really is this amazing template, if I say so myself, because it's just got everything that you need. It's got your statistics, it's got your data, it's got all the volume, it's got all the TPO chart. It's just like, yeah, it's obviously amazing. And we've put in all the hours creating it, so you literally can just download and use it. How about that? That sounds good, no? So this is obviously a zoomed in view of the day. What you will have within this template. This is obviously the TPO chart here. This is your volume profile chart, and your candlesticks obviously within this as well. So this is what we'll just call version 1, because I'm sure I already know I've speak to Varan, and there are updated with requested thing. We have a really good relationship with EXO, so we can kind of request things and then add it in for us. So all I'll say is this is version 1. This is subject to change, but for version 1 of the template, this is the zoomed in, to 1 day alone. This is what it's going to look like, okay? And we'll just call this version. You can already tell me. We'll call this one just version 1, okay? I need to remember to breathe. I think this. So this is the information that you get above every TPO daily profile. Okay, so if we're halfway through the day like we are today, you'll notice these values are going to be different than the end of the day. So it's updating, and then obviously when the day ends, these values are set in stone, and you can kind of then build statistics off of this. This is why I kind of like these ones, because you can, this is where you can kind of formulate your statistics, rotation factor, as we're going to go through it tonight. So as we're going to now explain all of these sub points, what they all mean. So A/B TPO, this stands for above or below the TPO values, okay, specifically the point of control. So above or below the TPO, and then I've set this in the template to percentages, okay. So the above will show us the time spent above or below the time point of control, okay. So this is going to refer to looking at the data of the point of control of the day as it's ongoing, or obviously as it's complete, the overall point of control of the day. And this is basically going to be showing us the percentage of time that we've spent below it or above it. So obviously if we've got the point of control at one level and it's 10%, 90%, we've spent 90% of the day below the time point of control, basically. Okay, and this is helpful when we compare it with the volume point of control. So naturally we have on the template the above and below TPO percentages, and then of course the above and below volume percentages. And this is obviously now, it's that same thing, but instead of looking at the time point of control, it looks at the volume point of control. So if we just go back a step, obviously we got the TPO chart here and the volume profile here, and the point of controls can be different on both of them. So obviously there's those discrepancies between time and price. So it's very, in my opinion, it's very, very, very helpful to be able to see this instantly, how much difference there are between the point of controls as well as exact percentages, which is just, it really is amazing. One thing to bear in mind on this is an important note, and that is the point of control referenced will change depending on if this box is ticked. To reference volume point of control, if it's ticked or unticked, it will reference the time point of control. I think what I will do is load up the template a second and just show you where to change this, because I am changing between them both regularly. So I won't always just use one, I switch between them. And to change the referenced point of control, you click on here on the left hand side, TPO, you click into settings, and you come down to point of control VA, and we will, if it's ticked, we're looking at the volume point of control, and if we untick it, it's looking at the time for the point of control. So you can see here the percentages will change depending on if we have it ticked or unticked. So this is where it's referenced basically. Okay, and that's how you can change between the two. Yep. Next we have the total delta, which naturally, really simple, shows the total delta for the day. Okay, the RF, which stands for rotation factor, and I'm going to explain this in a later slide, basically. But just for now, you'll understand that the next one in the column is RF, which is just rotation factor. I'll explain that later in the stream. The initial balance high for the day, pretty simple, no? So first hour of the trading day, it will just literally tell you the exact initial balance high of the day. So again, just easy, quick, a quality of life improvement, I suppose, where you can just really, really, really simply see it. The initial balance low. So IBL literally stands for, of course, the initial balance low. Okay, the ACR, and this is one that I personally find very helpful. And I know many traders, so basically this just stands for literally the average candle size during the day. So this is going to be really different every day, but I find it very helpful. And I think, although I don't use, this obviously stands for average true range, although I do not use average true range personally very much, never really. I do like to look at the average candle range. Okay, obviously these values are calculated differently. The average true range is going to generally look at more, sample size, but this is just looking literally at the current day. So I would generally, if we're in a range, let's say we're in a range like, what was this, about 2 weeks ago now, where we were trading in that sideways range for Bitcoin. Okay, so let's say we're in a range for 14 days. Okay, a really, really nice sideways range, just like we were. Well, then you can take the past 14 days of data, look at the average candle size, find out by how many days that we've got, and then literally have the average candle size of the whole range. And that's helpful information. For example, if you are using, a strategy that coincides with something like the average true range, for example, where you're thinking to yourself, I don't use this, but I can understand how this is really helpful. Like, for example, if you were saying, I'll allow for a deviation of the range. So one strategy that you can put behind this, and this is something that I would use, would say, okay, let's say we're in a $5,000 range, and the average candle, the average candle, range, which is just from the low to the high. Obviously, we got 48 in a day because we got 30-minute increments or 30-minute time frame. Every candlestick is 30 minutes, every column is 30 minutes in a TPO chart. So 48 in a day. And so we're taking the average of those 48 candles and it's giving us a low to high size of the candle, basically. So once we've got the average of our day, that's brilliant. But if we're trading within a range bound market, and remember, in my opinion, TPO charts and volume profile charts are best used in a range. Well, once we know the average of that range, again, let's say we've got 14 days of data, then we can use the knowledge or fact of having the average candle size. So then what we could say is, let's say we're in a $5,000 range overall, and the average candle size within this range is $500, let's say. Well, if we start to move above that range by, $800, then this is over the average candle size. So if we're starting to break above the range with a higher than average candle size, as well as, let's say, we wouldn't use that alone, of course, but, let's say the average, the candle sizes are increasing in size. We're sort of seeing increases in volume, delta. then this is naturally just another thing that you can use to say, okay, for example, we are leaving this range either bullishly or bearishly. So I think, yeah, that's one way that I would personally use it. Whereas I know other people, I do not use it this way, but I know you can use it like this. And that's by like using the average true range. So the average true range is obviously people will set their stop loss. Let's say they're shorting for the top of the range and they know the average true range size. Converting this back to the ACR, then we'd say, again, average candle size is $500. If they're looking to short the top of the range and it's got a bit of a rejection, then they might put their stop loss $600 above the range high, thinking to themselves, okay, if we break if we go above the average candle size above the high, I want to be out of the trade. That's not really a method I would use, but hey, you could possibly introduce that into your strategy. So